What's good, YouTube? It's Rigo here, and I got a deck profile for the deck I took to North American WCQ over the weekend. I know I've been pretty dormant since the ban list was revealed several months ago. Um, I mostly just wanted to work on what I wanted to play in Nats just on my own and with a friend of mine without saying much about it. I actually originally was going to play Orcust because I really like that deck, and I think there's a lot of potential hidden there that I honestly think a lot of people aren't doing exactly the way it should. I mean, that's my own opinion. Uh, but after YCS Knoxville and seeing how utterly dominant uh, Danger Thunder still proved to be, like, maybe not dominant because there were definitely like other decks there, but Danger Thunder just kind of proved that it was still incredibly powerful, and like when it goes off, it's just like basically impossible to stop. I basically decided I couldn't ignore that, and I decided to play the deck at Nats. It worked about as well as I could have hoped. I made it to round 7 again for the third year in a row before being knocked out, and by knocked out I mean I made X3 and decided at that point the chances of me making it were so slim, even if I won out the remaining 5 rounds, because it was a 12-round tournament, that I decided to just drop from there. This will probably be my last Danger Thunder deck profile, assuming that this deck does not survive the next ban list. I fully believe that this deck probably is not going to last much longer. I'm surprised it's lasted as long as it has, considering just how absurdly powerful it is. But yeah, let's get into it. I did enter like a regional flight with an Orcust deck, and frankly, I just find that deck to be a lot more fun. And that's probably what I'll be playing at the ARG Invitational this weekend. Actually, no, that's assuredly what I'll be playing at the ARG Invitational this weekend. But yeah, check out this sick mat. This is has to be one of the best participation mats for Nats I've ever seen. Anyway, so let's get into the deck. I don't really know how much I can really say about this deck. I feel like a lot of it's pretty standardized at this point. I do a little bit of different stuff. So 3 Battery Man Solar. This is my only normal summon in the deck. That does mean I am not playing the Crusadias. I did test them. I really like them, but there was a couple of things that I didn't get to thoroughly test, but I had some concerns about the Crusadia engine that ultimately made me decide not to go with them. I'll get into that a bit later, but one of the big things is that they are another normal summon on top of Battery Man Solar. And I found that a lot of the times if you just open too many normal summons, like if you open Solar and a Reclusia, if one of those gets stopped, it's just terrible. And I wanted to make sure my plays were as it could as consistently go off as possible, and that meant minimizing the number of normal summons. And I feel like it was easier to get away with this before, when we had for one, Phantom Skyblaster. While the Crusadia engine is almost as effective as Phantom Skyblaster was 1 extra monster, I believe, because the Crusadia engine gives you 3 and Phantom Skyblaster essentially gives you 4. And Phantom Skyblaster was not susceptible to Ash and just things like that. And then also just without Summon Sorceress, it's a lot harder to make a huge play with only 3 monsters as opposed to 4. So there was a bunch of reasons as to why it was probably correct to continue playing the Crusadias. The deck that won the event was Crusadia Danger Thunder, ran by, I think, Cody Angeloff. So it probably was better to play them, but I don't really think I missed them at any point. I think there are situations where it's oh yeah, the cards I put in place with the Crusadias, if these were the Crusadias, it would have been fine, but I think these cards also worked fine. In any situation where I really had a bad hand, I don't think the Crusadias would have helped. So, I don't know, it was here or there, but that engine is definitely really good. The one thing I did miss by not playing that is that if you get Lanciad without the Crusadias, you basically are not likely to make a Guard Dragon play at all, where sometimes I just walked through a Lancia with a Crusader, so that might be the one thing I really missed about them. 3 Legionnaire, this is the best card in the deck. I honestly don't think this card's going to stay at 3 for much longer. It's just way too absurdly good. and versatile. So the dangers. This is where I diverge. Because I did not play the Crusaders, I did play more dangers than normal. So I played the standard, like, 3 Nessie, 3 Jackalope, 3 Bigfoot. Or 1 Bigfoot and 3 Tsuchinoko. But I also played 2 Mothman and a Chupacabra. And the reason for this was that the Crusaders basically gave you more bodies, and they kind of just fulfilled the role of Phantom Skyblaster. And the Dangers, I think, did the same thing, but they also like would draw you into other parts of your deck, so you could potentially make more plays. I feel like the potential trade-off for the Crusaders was higher, but I felt like the Dangers would give me a bit more consistency in achieving what I wanted to do. And they were a lot harder to disrupt, because nobody's going to throw a hand trap into a Danger, but if you get like hand trapped on your Crusadia and you have no other play, then it can hurt a lot. And people have definitely started like negating the summons, like the normal summons in the deck. Like, I had so many people Ash or Veiler Batteryman Solars, and I think that's actually just, at this point, the correct thing to do, because if you like wait for Saryuja, there's a good chance that at that point I just have the full play anyway. So like trying to stop me from getting the 4 monsters on the board is basically the way you stop this deck, really. So the Dangers were like a way for me to potentially put 4 on the board without being disrupted. So that was my logic with playing the more Dangers, and I feel like what makes Danger Thunder, in my opinion, the best deck right now is that it is the deck that abuses the Dangers to their fullest, where they use the Dangers as bodies as opposed to just like a supplement for the deck. It's like they are the main thing in the deck where they get you to your game plan. So that was a real big reason that I decided to up them. Mothman was actually not as bad as I thought it would be. I remember the last time I played Mothman in this deck was at the Team YCS, and Mothman was terrible, but I also wasn't playing Vanilla Thunder Dragon at the time, and I think just having that made the lesser Dangers more powerful. And on the rare occasions in testing where I did actually like whiff with Mothman and had to use his effect, sometimes I was just really broken. Like I'd ditch a Nessie, or I would put a Roar Engrave and just go off with Wyver Burster. So I didn't really mind this. I think it overall worked out pretty well. Chupacabra, I don't think I ever actually used its effect, and I regularly sided these 3 out. But I don't think there's a better Danger to play, really. Like maybe Thunderbird, but I think I would like Chupacabra a bit more. So yeah, I mean, this worked out. If I decided to not play these, and like if I decided to play the Crusaders again, then these would come out for Reclusia, and then there's another card in the deck that would come out for the Draco. So for the Thunders, we played 3 Vanilla Thunder Dragon, 2 Dark, 2 Roar, 1 Hawk, and 1 Duo. This is mostly standard. I've actually always been a proponent of only playing 1 Roar, just because I feel like the card's a lot of the time is pretty terrible to draw. And it's like you'd rather just dump it off a Solar and then revive it with Hawk, or revive it with, or banish it with the Wyver Burster. But the two Roar was not bad. I put it in the second one because when I cut the Crusadia engine, I had 1 extra spot, so I just filled it with a Roar. And it does give you a bit more grind power in that you can use the second copy to like get back the Hawk, and then you can make plays on the next turn from that. So like I definitely didn't mind the 2 Roar, but if I had to cut stuff to keep the deck at 40, because I like keeping the deck at 40, like so many builds go up to like 43, 45 and stuff like that, and I just don't really like doing that. I probably would have cut one of the Roar, because I've never really felt like 2 Roar was needed, but it definitely was useful at times over the weekend. And with only the Batteryman Solars as the normal summon, sometimes you can just like tribute summon Roar and just make a play from there. So that was nice too, I suppose. And then the mini Chaos Dragons, I played 3 of each. I think this is just correct now. Like next to Levianeer, these are the best cards in the deck. There's so many ways to put lights in the graveyard now that like Halatrim is not that hard to put on board. Like between the Thunder Dragon, like Vanillas, and then just like Land Ferinkus and the extra. Like there's a lot of ways to just put lights in grave. Oh, I was still playing the Crusadias Magius as a light also, so there's that too. Like I never found this to be bricky, and like you just want to see one of these in your opening hand that you just need to max them out, I feel. And then the last Dragon support cards and the last monsters were 1 Diablos, 1 Wyvern, 1 Brotor. This card's insane. I can't believe they printed that. The card's actually wild. And then 3 Saxolite. And that's the main deck. 40 cards. Extra deck. So because I didn't play the Crusaders, I had one flex spot, and because I opted the Thunder account to play 2 Roar, I decided to play 3 Colossus, just because I felt like there might have been a situation where like I could end on a double Colossus, and then if my opponent somehow survived that, on the next turn I can make the 3rd Colossus, and then like make a push from there, because you could use a Colossus, or you can make the Colossus and then revive the like Diablos or whatever, and just stuff like that. It didn't come up in the event itself. Sometimes it came up in testing, and realistically the last spot was a flex spot. Like I was debating between the 3rd Colossus, a Borreload Dragon, Nightmare Cerberus, or Link Spider, and then I would have played Phantom Skyblaster instead of the 2nd Roar. None of those really came up too much. I honestly don't think Nightmare Cerberus is that good. I know a lot of the top players like say that like Nightmare Cerberus is really nice. I've never really seen it in that card. I see things where it's like there's a couple situations where it's useful, but overall I just am not terribly impressed by it, and it only just seems to like bait something out in a situation where you're already losing anyway. The Link Spider for Phantom Skyblaster would have been nice if I had decided to play Phantom Skyblaster, but I decided to stick to Solar as the only normal summons, and it felt like dedicating an entire extra deck slot to a limited card just didn't feel worth it, and Phantom Skyblaster wasn't worth it without the Link Spider. And then Borreload Dragon I thought of because it was an out to Avramax, but in the one situation in testing with my friend where Avramax came up and Borreloading it would have been useful, he had it backed by an Eagle Booster because he was playing Sky Striker. And other than that, Borreload has never come up. I've never needed it. So, like, out of all the testing I did, the 3rd Colossus came up more than any of the other potential options, and even that didn't come up. So this could have been literally anything. And if I had played the Crusaders, then this would have been 2 Colossus. But I did do a double Colossus play at least once during the event, and then it was like, well, if they somehow survive this, which they didn't, then I could make the 3rd Colossus on the next turn. So with a higher Thunder count, I think it makes sense to play 3 Colossus, but I mean, it could have been anything else. It could have been 2 Colossus and whatever you want. Hot Red, I like this more than Crystal Wing just because it's just more versatile. Like, yeah, Crystal Wing's better against combo, but Hot Red is just good against the more backer heavy decks like Striker, and then like you can just negate like things that aren't monsters, which is just useful at times. I don't know. I'm not really sure on words right now. Hope Harbinger. This is mainly just because it protects Heavenly Spheres, so they can't just run into it. And just spell negation is just really good. It just this beats mine. That's like one of the huge things about it. 2-star Yuja. I could not possibly tell you why this card didn't get limited. I am honestly now in the camp that this card should probably be banned, but since they've just reprinted it, it's probably not going to happen. But I do think it 100% should at least be at 1. Resolving this card 2 times in 1 turn is just absolutely unfair. And like even if the dangers are the reason that's even like remotely easy, the fact of the matter is that anytime you can just like spam monsters onto the board, that card is just going to be really broken in multiple copies. The Guard Dragons, Pissy's really good. Just being able to throw more bodies onto the board just more easily makes Saryuja is huge now without Summon Sorceress. And then Triple Burst, this is just for if you need... This and Land for Incus are if you need to make the Guard Dragon play with only 3 monsters. And I had to do that several times just because there are sometimes where you just won't get to the 4 monsters. Where they'll like disrupt your Solar, or you just won't be able to put 3 on board or 4 on board, so you just have to make it with 3. And this is how you do it. It's a lot more susceptible to disruption, but if it walks, then you just basically still have the play. So... Heavenly Spheres, I love this card. This card's insane. This card is how I outed Avramax when I tested with my friend. This was better than Borreload. And then the 2 Nightmares. And like I said, I don't like Cerberus. I don't really like Cerberus in any deck. I honestly, like, even in Orcus, I don't care for it. And on many occasions, I've come really close to cutting it. And side deck. So, 3 Lancia. Don't even need to explain that card anymore. 3 Phantasme. The running trend in Thunder deck seems to be maining this card. I absolutely do not agree with that. I don't like in combo decks, especially in like the current era of Yu-Gi-Oh, I do not like maining cards that do not help further your combo. And Phantasme is mostly there just as like for going second. It like sculpts your hand so you can more easily deal with whatever your opponent throws you. But I would rather build my deck and optimize it to go first, and accept the fact that if I'm playing against a mirror, or if I'm playing against like a Salamangreat or Striker deck that opens absolutely perfectly, I might lose game one to a die roll, and that's just kind of like something you accept by playing combo, I feel, or at least that's the way it's felt ever since Goki became a thing. So I understand that, like, it's when going second, it's just raw upside with this card, and it frees up 3 spots in the side deck to main this card. So like I could have played no material if I wanted to, but it just didn't seem worth it to me. And it's like I would have not cut anything for the Phantasmes, like maybe cut the extra dangers, but that just seemed bad to me. And I would have just ended up upping to 40, where I would have just rather them be blanks. So I just decided to side this, and I don't really regret it. I've never agreed with maining this card in combo decks. So Gamma, this was honestly the MVP side card. This card was amazing the whole weekend. Just like opening this against the Mirror, opening this against Orcus, opening this against Salamangreat, and just hitting like the right thing is just so absurdly good, just because like it negates the effect and then it destroys the card, which is amazing. So like negating Gazelle with this I did like several times and it was broken. I negated Mermaid with this. I don't think this actually came up the one time I played the Thunder Mirror, but it would have been nice if it did. Yeah, I just think I didn't draw it or something. 3 Twin Twisters. This is like, I just have to main this because mine exists. Like, if mine didn't exist, I would just stick with Pankratops, but like, Twister just needs to be played. The other MVP, the one time I resolved it, was Eradicator. This just won me my round 5 against Sky Striker. Just automatically. It's so free in this deck because you just so easily put a 2500 plus Dark on the board. I'm definitely really glad I played this. This is the one card I hadn't like no testing with going into the event. It was like I was gonna play this or I was gonna play like Denko or something. I was like, Eradicator just theoretically is too good, and like it never came up whenever I was testing or like playing at locals. And then the event, it came and I drew it, I resolved it, and it just won me that match. So super glad I played it. But yeah, that's the entire deck. Like it's mostly standard. The only thing that's different is that I didn't play the Crusaders and I played more Dangers. My matchups were, I lost round 1 to Salamangreat in time. Against my better judgment, I went first game 3. I feel like this deck, especially against Salamangreat, if there's like less than 10 minutes on the clock, you have to go second if you have the choice. Just because the damage and like life is just so huge. And if that matchup's not a complete blowout, it takes forever. So I feel like that just has to be like one where you go second in game 3. That's just this deck in general. If you, in game 3, you probably just need to go second. And then I beat Orcus. I beat 2 Orcus in a row. I beat another Salamangreat, I think. And then I beat, round 5 I played against Sky Striker, and it was actually David Keener, the guy who got second at both Nats and Worlds 2013, I believe, with Spellbook. I didn't realize it was him until we signed the slip afterwards, because I read his name and I recognized it. And before I could ask him, he got up and walked away, so I looked up his name, and I was like, oh, it's him. He was playing Sky Striker. It was a really good match, but I opened super broken game 2. Like, I went first, just open complete combo, and then game 3, I just pushed through everything, and then set Eradicator and just blew him up. It was insane. And then round 6, I lost to Orcus, and then round 7, I lost to the Mirror. It was a really, really good match. But I opened really weak games 2 and 3, and he just had it from there. And then from there, like, I probably could have kept going, but I didn't want to spend 5 more rounds banking on an X3, like, with good tiebreakers. So I just dropped, and then did a regional flight the next day with Orcus, and got second at that. Was really close to getting my invite for next year, but I lost the Mirror. And again, another good match. I'll save that deck list for after the ARG Invitational. But yeah, so that's all for Danger Thunder for me. Hopefully I've played Thunder in some capacity for 7 months. I picked up the entire core at the Soul Fusion sneak. I played it for several weeks before switching to the Danger FTK, because that was like, if I was competing in that format, there was no reason to play anything else if I had the means to do it. And then after that got axed, I went back to Thunder, and then built Danger Thunder when that became a thing. I've been playing it ever since. But yeah, that's probably it for the deck. I just want to play something else. I really want to play Orcust. I love everything about that deck, to be honest. It just fits me so well. So yeah, we'll probably be an Orcust deck profile by next week. Maybe do a banlist review, or not banlist review, banlist prediction. I always do banlist reviews, but I might do a banlist prediction. That's always something I've wanted to do. So yeah, that's all, and I'll see you guys next time.